All right, on today's show, I welcome on a very special guest. He's a two-time Coach of the Year and head coach at Classical High School boys basketball team. I welcome on Coach John Kavanagh. Coach, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing during these COVID times, Coach?
We're getting through. School's a little weird, but it was great that we were able to have a season. I'm grateful that the league was able to schedule that and get us in. Even it was obviously a shortened season, but I thought that overall it was great to get back with the guys and give them a chance to play, and we ended up having a pretty good season. So.
Yeah, definitely. It was great to see you guys on the floor and see everyone take the floor and be able to play basketball and without really too many big issues this year, which was kind of nice to see.
Yeah, it was. I honestly coming in just knowing that a lot of kids hadn't been working out, hadn't been getting in shape like they normally would for a season, or coming off another sport. I was a little concerned with, if there were going to be a lot of knee injuries or things of that nature, more weight related or just functional movement kind of injuries, than like a rolled ankle or something like that. That stuff can happen anytime. But I was surprised. We got through fairly unscathed throughout the whole season. So I know most of the teams, at least in D1, did as well.
Yeah, it's great. Like you said, you never know. Especially, I know I spoke to some kids. They're like, I haven't played basketball in a year. Like it's crazy
Yeah,
to have that
yeah. I
thought.
mean, we had lost the year before in the preliminary game of the divisionals and didn't make the open. So we finished, late February,
Wow.
and we went, 8 months before we got back in the court, 9 months before we got back in the court. Actually, no longer. It was probably like 10. So it was crazy. We were allowed to work out in the summer, which I'm grateful that our superintendent was allowed us to do that. So it was good to get back with them in the summer, get around them again, collect uniforms. I hadn't even done that yet, so I had to collect uniforms over the summer. But it was just good to get back with everyone and just be around each other. We enjoy each other. Part of the reason we do this.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. Coach, before we get into this, we talked about like this more about the crazy season and everything like that. I want to know, how did you get into basketball?
Well, I grew up playing. I played at Our Lady of Providence before it closed under the legendary Joe Hassett. And then I played my last years at LaSalle under Ed Haru. And then after graduating high school, I ended up playing 4 years at Salve, Regina, and Newport. The current head coach there now is Sean Foster, was actually one of my teammates. He was a freshman when I was a senior there. And I ended up going to grad school, becoming a teacher, started teaching special education at Central High School. And the girls' job just happened to open after like my third year teaching. And I had never coached a team at the high school level. I had helped out when I was in grad school. I had helped out with a D2 NAIA school up in Vermont. Help run some drills in practice, give them some plays I remembered from when I was in college and high school. But I got the opportunity and went for it and got the job. And it was great. And I fell in love with coaching right away. I was a average player, average to below average player in high school and college. Role player, come off the bench, start a handful of games here and there. If somebody was hurt or in trouble or whatever. But I felt I was much more comfortable as a coach than I was as a player, to be honest with you, on the court. I coached girls at Central for 4 years. We won out. My first year we won the D3 title.
Wow.
That was incredible to experience. And then I started working aim high basketball camp with Todd Keefe, who was the coach at Classical at the time. He was the JV coach. He ran this camp at Classical, and he worked with me at Central as a phys ed teacher. And became friends. And I had known Todd prior. I'd known him when I was in high school, and he was at Plano Rick. But I started working camp with him. We got close, and then an opportunity came to jump over to the boys' job at Classical as the assistant coach, and I was able to do that after 4 years with the girls.
Wow.
And then I was the JV coach for 3 years, and then Todd Keefe left and became the head coach of Central, and then I became the head coach at Classical.
Oh wow, that's
the abridged version. Yeah, that's the abridged version. But my last year with the girls, I was actually helping out with Classical boys because I wasn't able to switch over that 1 year because they didn't want to open up a head position to fill a JV position. So in the district, so I was actually coaching the girls, and then I was done. I'd walk next door to classical, and I'd help out with the varsity in practice, playoff games, Christmas tournaments. So, it was good because I got my foot in the door and I got to know the kids a little bit better. I knew some of them from camp, but it was nice to get over there and kind of get under Coach Keith and see how he ran things. And I learned a ton from him as a coach.
That's crazy. So you had like a double dosage of basketball, like in one.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, not everyone was happy I was doing that, but it worked out well.
Yeah, definitely worked out well. I mean, what was like some of the things that you worked out from learned from Coach Keith and that you were able to kind of take under your own philosophy?
A lot of stuff I learned under Todd was game situations, to look for player tendencies. Like I said, I went into coaching kind of fresh. Like I hadn't coached at other levels, and I went right in as a head coach for the girls program.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was D3 girls basketball, but I had some talented kids that we played hard, and we did our thing. But going to the boys game, it was bigger, stronger, faster. And but I learned a lot of things on Todd about how to run different drills, and even working the camp at the time. I worked with a lot of coaches in the state. Al Butler was at East Providence at the time. We had a strength trainer that was a football coach at East Providence. Charlie Holiday from Mount Pleasant worked with us for a while. Mark Bayhay worked with us, who coached LaSalle, is now an official. Sean Kelly worked with us, who's now the AD and coach over at Wheeler. So I was around a lot of basketball minds, and I was able to kind of pick and learn from them. Coaching under Todd, I got a lot of opportunities too. I was able to run a lot of practices. I was able to coach some varsity games on top of the JV games. So I think in my 3 years as an assistant under Todd, I think I coached close to 10 varsity games, which is rare. There's not a lot of JV coaches that that have that opportunity to get that experience, And there were some big games. There were games. My first year, we were undefeated, and we were playing West Warwick was coming in. They were undefeated. They had a 6'8" center. They had a 6'6" power forward, and they were legit. We ended up seeing them again in the state title that year and beating them then. But, I remember going to scout. They were playing Juanita Sanchez.
Yeah.
I think it was Juanita Sanchez and Phantom. I forget which, but they went and played like before they played us. And I went scout, and I literally wrote down everything they did. And I'm calling stuff out as they're calling. I'm like, they're doing this, they're doing that. And it was a great opportunity. I wouldn't be as successful as I have been as a head coach if I hadn't had that time under Todd.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah. It sounds like such a great experience. And
yeah, it was.
The scouting aspect, is it? What do you enjoy the scouting aspect of coaching?
No, I don't. I honestly don't. My philosophy over the last 10 years has always been, if we go out and do what we're supposed to do, and we do it the way we've been taught to do, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
That was my message this year. Obviously this year you couldn't go scout. However, every game was televised or streamed. And I have assistant coaches that will go watch games, and I have one assistant coach that he'll go to every game that he possibly can, and I flat out tell him, like, you don't have to. Like, I've been coaching in the state long enough. I know most of the programs. I know what their kind of tendency, their zone team, with their man team, with their pressing team, kind of what they'll play on offense. You know who the better players are in each team. And again, if you just go out and do what you do, I think you'll be fine. Now, granted, I've had a lot of tremendous players that have come through my program. I've been blessed. So it's different for other programs. Other coaches have different philosophies, and that's fine. That's how they do it. But for me to say, I'm going to go run a 2.5 hour practice, and then I'm going to go to another gym and watch another game, to go back the next day and practice and review the same things we just did today. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like I said, I know other schools will send assistant coaches out to multiple games a night to see this guy playing, see that guy playing, what they do in this situation, what they do in that. I don't think any of us, and this isn't a knock on anyone, but I don't think any of us are doing anything too groundbreaking. Basketball is basketball. We've all seen it. You're either going to be a man team or a zone team or a pressing team. You're going to run either a motion offense or a ball screen offense, or overload on a zone or what. But like, everyone knows that classical plays man. We play pack line man. We've played pack line man for 14 years. Next year it's not going to change. And I'll say next year we're going to be a great 2-3 team. It's just not going to happen. It's just not my philosophy. So Yeah, like I said, I drill my guys daily on what we do, both on offense and defense. And we spend a lot of time on skill work and practice as well. And I think it's worked out well for us.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. You guys have had very successful seasons, and you yourself has a very successful seasons. When you run like the pack line, what was that like teaching it to the upcoming freshmen and young men? Does that in your programs, or like, because I used to run the pack line when I actually coached too, so I'm interested
Yeah.
in how you taught it.
So the first time I started using it, when I was running the JV at Classical, it was crazy. So my first 2 years of Classical, we lost one league game in 2 years.
Wow.
To Shed, and Shed was stacked that 1 year. We lost at Shed. They did a great job of kind of that little court, and we just couldn't get the ball into our big guy. He was the reigning Gary Player of the Year, and we ended up just firing up shots in map court. We just played like we didn't know what basketball was.
Yeah.
And so we had 2 years. Literally, we had one loss in the season. We won back-to-back Division II championships. We beat West Warwick, and we beat Narragansett. My third year, we graduated all those guys. And we literally played with 5 point guards. We played 2-3, and we shot threes. That's all we did. We would pump as much air on the ball as possible, so until it was ready to pop, because we needed as many long rebounds as we could, so we can get out and run. And but that year, it was my last year as JV. I had 2 players who were absolute studs: Ishmael Batista and Terrell Tell. They ended up becoming all-staters, state champs, 1,000-point scorers for me. They won every award you could possibly think of. The following year, my first year as varsity, we moved up to Division I. And these guys, basically my JV team from the year before, became my starting 5 for varsity. So I had these 2 studs. I had Keelan Ines as a freshman, and he didn't last the season for me. And then I had a 5'9" power forward. And I had one center who was about 6'3", but probably weighed, as much as a pencil. And we were in every game. There were like 3 games the entire year. We got beat badly. The rest of the games, we'd go down, we make a run, we come close, but we won 1 game that year. And it was crazy because when I transitioned over to varsity and brought these guys up, I had to give them some fighting chance against these teams. Like, we're playing Central, who was stacked at the time. We're playing Cranston West. We're playing Hendricken. We're playing St. Ray's. And so I came up with the idea of, let's run the pack. That way, when the guy's got the ball, he's looking at a man on him and a guy in each gap. So he's basically looking at a wall of 3 everywhere he is in the court. And it worked. The first time he ran it was against Central, and it gave us a fighting chance. It really did we packed the lane. We made teams try to shoot over the top of us. It helped us rebound and helped us kind of get out in transition. And it worked that year, and then I just kept adding to it, different ways to cover ball screens, some run and jump stuff. But it's been my philosophy every year to this day, including the season. Beginning of the season, I'm going to go out, I'm going to tape the line, I'm going to tape the pack line on the court and say, we're going to work on, you better be inside that line. If you're not on the ball, you better be inside the pack line. Yeah. And we drill it, every day. So it's become a big part of what we had. I've been harassed by assistant coaches of mine that say, we got to do this, we got to deny the wings, we got to do this. No, you don't. Let's just do this. And we drill it every day. And my kids, for the most part, they've grasped it. They grasped the concepts, how we play the post. We haven't been blessed with a lot of height of my career. We've had some bigs, but not a ton. But we play positional defense, and it's worked for us.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. Yeah, that's how it was just funny. I was interested to hear about how you taught it, because we used to do the same thing. We used to put the tape on the floor. It used to drive me nuts though, because like the janitor would come in and like scrape up the tape. I had to come put it back down on like the next.
We actually had 1 year where they didn't pull it up, and they lacquered the floor. They would redo the floor every Christmas break because we'd be away. We'd always go out of state for our tournaments. Yeah. And they lacquered right over it. So it was there for the season. So
that's nice. That's nice. I wish I was able to get away with that.
Yeah. They weren't happy about it. The guys didn't take it up. It's supposed to be there. So,
yeah, it's supposed to be. Yeah, it's part of the court. And now you mentioned, Coach, that you won a state championship in 2013. What was that accomplishment to win a state championship in 2013?
That team was special. So that team, that was the guys that played my last year at JV, Ish and Terrell, and then the following year Keelan. That became the 3-headed monster. going to that year. All three of them reached 1,000 points that year together. Keelan did as a junior. So Ish and Terrell reached 1,000-point mark in back-to-back games. Terrell did in a 4 overtime loss against Mount Pleasant. And then the next 2 nights later, we played Woonsocket on Cox Sports. It was actually televised, and Ish got his 1,000. And then we were in the state semifinals against North Smithfield, and Keelan got his 1,000. So then that's, I don't know what other schools had. I think Davies back in like the 90s, early 2000s had 3 guys go for 1,000, but that team was special. I had role players who accepted their roles, and my bigs basically were there to set screens, play defense, roll. They get an opportunity to score, they take it. But those 3 guards they terrorized the state. They averaged a combined about 61 points a game.
Oh my God.
I mean, they were tough, and they were all different types of players. Terrell was my shooter. He could just lock in and just knock down threes. Ish was my leading rebounder for 4 years at 5'8", 5'9".
Wow.
And he was the toughest kid in the state. He was a mid-range game. He's 1,000-point scorer as a guard, and he probably made less than 33s in his career.
That's crazy.
So he was all mid-range to the rim, and if he missed a shot, he was going to go get the rebound, whether you had it or not. He was going to get it off you, and he was going to score and get an and one. It was guaranteed. I'd yell him all the time to get back on defense, to the point where everyone's yelling at me like, "Just let him go. Like, he's going to be fine."
Yeah.
And then I had Keelan Ives, who was my best player I've ever had. Keelan did it all. He could score in any way possible, whether it be from 3, mid-range, pull up, off screens, get into the rim, through contact. I mean, he just progressed so much over his career for me that that's why he became a D1 player. So he scored 1,666 points basically in 3 years. His freshman year, he didn't make it through the season for me. Just a combination of stuff, behavior, grades, all kind of things. His story's been well documented. And but he and I have just a very special relationship. We talk probably weekly. But he literally did it all for us. He was the pilot of that ship. He just led us to the championship.
That's awesome.
And it's the team that came off a 1-win season 2 years prior, to go from 1 win the following year, missing a shot at the buzzer in the Elite Eight against basically missing a wide open layup against Central, to go to the Final Four, and then the following year win the title. So it was a great ride with those kids.
That's awesome. That's great.
And the group that won it in 2016, in the D1 title in 2016, they were freshmen in my program at the time, and they came with us throughout all the playoff games. So when we played against Hope at Brown, when we played against Wesley at PC, and the 2 games that we were at, they were sitting on our bench. So all these kids that ended up going back there as seniors sat on my bench as freshmen, kind of like they were the stats guy, or they were the towel boy or water boy. So basically I was getting titles so they could be there.
Yeah.
And but I feel like that experience really got them ready to see what they could do when 4 years later they got back there.
That's crazy. That's great. And that's awesome that you're able to get that experience. What's it like to coach too? Because you coach some great talent like Keelan and then David Duke and Sean Duke. Yeah. What's it like to coach guys like that and just have them come through your program?
Keelan was a challenge, not gonna lie. He knows it. Love him dearly. He's my son, but Keelan was a challenge. He had to learn that he didn't know it all, and he had to follow rules, and he had to do the classwork and everything else. But when he bought in, he became just the best leader I've ever had. I've said it earlier this season, Marquise Buchanan reminds me a lot of Keelan.
Yeah.
A lot of similar qualities. But Keelan was a kid that no one worked harder than him in practice. He wanted to win every drill. He wanted to win every scrimmage. And he wanted to pull everyone along with him. And, he won it in 2013. We lost in the D1 finals to Hope and won the state championship. We come back the following year and he loses, his 2 gunslingers. He loses Terrell and Ish to graduation. Terrell went to Bryant and walked on to Bryant. Ish went to PC on an academic scholarship. And now he's playing with sophomores, in the starting lineup with them. And he had to drag those kids along. And I told him, I said, you're burdened with youth. You're the best player on a youthful team, and you got to lead these guys. And he took it. And he did the best possible job he could, and led us to. We ended up going to the Final Four of the divisionals and losing to North Kingstown, and then we went to the Elite Eight and lost in the final minute to LaSalle, who ended up winning that all that year.
Wow.
You look at a kid like David, again, kind of a strange beginning. David came in as a 5'6", 115-pound freshman. I mean, to see what David is now compared to when I first met him, it's astounding. So Terrell Toe is actually his cousin, and his cousin Calvin Jones, who runs Camp Errol, is also his cousin. So Calvin and Terrell both tell me, "Oh yeah, my cousin David's coming in next year. He's going to be a stud." Da, da, da. I go meet him in the off season at a camp, and I'm looking at this kid. I'm like, he's like smallest guy I've ever had coming into my program. Like, what are you talking about? Oh no, he'll be playing varsity as a freshman. Well, that didn't happen. He swung, but that was just like end of the year. Like, we need some guys to come up for practice.
Yeah.
That summer, I ran a camp at Wheeler with Sean Kelly, and I hadn't seen David in a few months, and he comes into camp and he's like 6'1", and I'm like, what happened to you? Like, where are your feet? And I remember I gave him a pair of running sneakers. They were like a size 10.5 or something I had.
Yeah.
Gave him a pair of sneakers. By October, he was wearing a 13.
My God.
And I'm like, good God. So that year, you really saw the potential as a sophomore. Like, you saw glimpses. Like, he wasn't consistent. He still kind of learned how to play. But, you saw the athletic ability. He had the length. But he had to learn how to play at that size. And I remember we had our December Madness kind of, pep rally kind of thing we do every year. And he had dunked once prior to this night at Vincent Brown with a couple of his buddies. Yeah. And then he came to the thing, we're doing 2-line layups, and everyone's trying to dunk, but David's dunk after dunk after dunk. He runs by him and he's like, Cav, I don't know where this is coming from. Yeah. I'm like, you're athletic. Like, get better.
Yeah.
And then, going into his junior year, you just saw like he was just oozing potential. And he struggled early. He was dealing with a hamstring injury. And once we kind of got the hamstring injury under control, and, he knew it wasn't going to be a lingering problem and everything else, he really blossomed. And then once the playoffs started, he just took over.
Yeah.
So, David was a late bloomer. He was young for his grade. That's part of the reason that he went prep, that he was young. His birthday was in November. And, he just had to kind of grow into, he needed two things. He needed to grow into his body, and he needed people to believe in him. Yeah. And I think we allowed both to happen. And, to see where he's at now on the cusp of, a pro career, it's incredible.
Yeah. It's awesome.
So, yeah. So it's like I said, I've been blessed with a lot of great players in my career. A lot of kids that have come through and just done the dirty work. A lot of kids that have put in tireless number of hours, working out, getting in the weight room, making sure they're in shape, getting in the gym, shooting, playing AAU and everything else. So I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I feel like classical is always like a team that you won the gauntlet. I call it Division I. It's like you have to go through that gauntlet of like classical.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
we've had some lean years the last couple of years. Not gonna lie, but I think this year, that this group really put us back on the map.
Yeah, and what was it like working with this group? I mean, you had a great group of kids like Stanley, Yuri, Marquise. Your starting five were just it seemed like a bunch of great kids. Ned, like, what was it like working with this group this year?
Well, it's so, you had Ned and Stanley who've been in my program for 4 years. And they were, they worked their tails off, both played AU, and you just saw their growth year in, year out. Ned, I wouldn't say I'm most proud of it, but Ned had just a phenomenal year. I had plans of Ned being like my varsity point guard as a sophomore, and he just struggled. And at that point, I said, I'm going to put you back down in JV, get you a little more seasoning. And they had a great year in JV. They went to the JV championship, and it was him, Stanley, and Marquise. And then last year, he struggled. He just struggled defensively. He would get lost. And I always have a policy where I'm not going to put kids in a situation where they're not going to be successful. I feel that hurts them more. They might be getting playing time, but if they're going out there and getting exposed every night or struggling or getting embarrassed, then that defeats the purpose. Yeah. So he really had to earn minutes. He came in this year and you could tell he was a completely different player. Stanley, same thing. Stanley just puts the work in. He hasn't even scratched his potential, I feel. Yeah. He's got all a bunch of like the Little East Conference schools looking at him. And I think wherever he ends up, he's going to have a tremendous career. A big addition was Alexis Del Judas. We didn't know we were getting Lex until late in the summer. And he kind of gave us an edge. He gave us some physicality.
Yeah.
And he gave us an inside presence, even though if you look at my roster, and I joked with the league and everyone else, but I put all guards. I had 13 guards, no forwards, no center. Everyone's a guard.
Yeah.
And but he gave us a presence inside because of his physicality, his ability to finish around the rim, just being a lefty. I've had a couple lefties, but I have 3 specific ones that have just been tremendous. Malik Chase, Ronnie Theodore, and Alexis Del Judas. Just that lefty game. It's sneaky. Yeah. My brother's a lefty. It was tough to play against. You don't expect it. And he just brought a different dimension to our program. And then I look at a kid like Evanson. Evan's still developing. He had some really good moments. He had some really poor moments. But I think overall he had a pretty good season. But he's shown that he needs to continue to progress, and I think he will. And then you have Marquise. And Marquise literally did everything I possibly could ask of a kid. He was in a precarious situation coming in over the last 3 years. So his freshman year, he came in with a lot of hype. I know his brother well, Leonard Williams, who was an all-stater at Mount Pleasant. We used to work out Leonard, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, my brother Marquise is coming." I knew he was talented, and I planned on him playing varsity as a freshman. He struggled with some of the academic expectations of classical, so we ended up playing JV and swinging. And then last year, I ended up starting him off the ball. And then I'd say probably within 3 or 4 games, he just assumed the point guard position. And my point guard at the time was plenty happy to give him the ball and go run to the corner. So I'm like, all right, well, let's go with it, and he played well. But last year's team, there was a lot of, we had 3 seniors in the starting lineup. We had a junior and we had a sophomore running the point. So you hope that when you have a team like that the upperclassmen are going to pull the younger guys and the young guys are going to push the older guys. Well, that push-pull went the opposite way, and they just butted heads all year long.
Oh,
so it's difficult. He was in a tough position, and he took a lot of unnecessary blame and probably took also some unnecessary credit. And but this year he came in and was just like, I'll do whatever it takes to win. And he proved it. The kid was my best on-ball defender. He was, like I said, his leadership qualities were very similar to Keelan's. He's going to work on his approach at times. But I think overall he just had a phenomenal year. And I'm when we did the All-State committee and they decided they were going to do a Player of the Year, I just said I didn't want, it wasn't going to be my vote to say Marquise's Player of the Year. It was the other coaches. But I could not be prouder that he was elected that, because I was telling him all season, you're the best player in the state. Just go lead us to a title. Like, you're the best player in the state. He can do it all. He can score in transition, hit the 3, hit the mid-range, get to the rim, make free throws. He's a lockdown defender on the ball. He's a great defender off the ball. He knows where everyone is supposed to be on the court on both ends. He's vocal, sometimes too vocal, but I could always count on him, and he and I have just really, from where he was as a freshman, a little bit of a knucklehead, and he knows this, but where he is now, it's been great to see him progress. And I think that he and I just have a great relationship.
That's great. That's awesome. And, and you mentioned he's like a great point guard. How much does that help you out with your coaching? Because you actually have like a coach on the floor. Like, how much does that help
so
out?
I've that's one of the years that I haven't had a true leader on the floor as a point guard, the years we've struggled. And I look back in my career, I had Ishmael as my first true point guard, but he was more of a scoring guard. And then Keelan kind of took that position and led us. And then I went to Will Leviton. We ended up, going to URI and walking on URI, and we know last story. And then it went to at the Will, we went to Kenny Hill, who actually lived with me for a year. I actually fostered him for a year. And then the next couple of years, we kind of struggled in that position. And then Marquise came in, he's kind of assumed that position and taken over. So the years that we've struggled have been the years that I've struggled at the point guard position. I don't know. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it's just the style that I coach, the type of offense I run. I try to mix it up yearly to some extent to kind of match what we have. But, I've had to go more 5-out last 2 or 3 years, and, not having a true big man last 2 years. It was more, motion offense, which it works and it doesn't work at times. But, I think overall, I've been fortunate to have some very good point guards in my program. And the one thing I can say is that we do help develop kids. I have three. I look at the end of a season and I don't judge it if we won a title or not, because some years you're not going to have. Some days all the teams is better.
Yeah.
So I base the success of my program on three things. Do I finish the year with the same amount of kids that I started with? That means no one failed off.
Yeah.
Do we improve on a day-to-day basis? And do my kids improve as players? And I think we do a great job of developing our kids. We run skills, like 25 to 30 minutes of skill work every day in practice. There are practices where we'll just kind of cut a show and we'll just basically turn into a workout. I've ran enough camps through Aim High and my own, and running camps for Chris Herron, that I know when we can, different drills and to work on, focus on different things, whether it be bigs or guards or whatever. And, I think we've done a good job of just developing kids, and they've improved their skill during the course of the season, which is tough to do. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like, I was going to ask how many college games you have to watch, because I feel like you all have a bunch of Division I college players, college kids in college playing. Yeah.
Between Keelan, I was able to see Keelan play a couple times, both at Ryder and at when he went to Southern Connecticut. Obviously, I've seen David play a bunch of times. I was able to go to the PCURI game. And I was hoping, it was like a 9-point game with like 30 seconds. And I was hoping Coach Cox would put in Will for the last 30 seconds, being the game was at the dunk, and I could get David and Will on the court. I got a great picture of the three of us after the game, but I was hoping I can get that moment with the two of them on the court, but it didn't happen. And then Keelan ended up leaving Ryder, because they used to play PC every year, because Coach Cooley and Coach Bagger were good friends. And I was hoping I could get that matchup, the Keelan versus David matchup, because there's so much trash talking with that.
Yeah.
Which I instigate a lot of it too, but it's just been it's been great to see guys, go to the next level, get their chance on the court, get their moment. And then, I try to, I'm lucky because I do have a lot of kids, not this year because of COVID, but normally over the course of the season, I will have a bunch of alumni come back to practice. They'll work out. They'll want to scrimmage the varsity team, which some years it's good. Other years they just get their butt kicked.
Yeah.
It's funny to see some guys that come in and just completely out of shape. Like, did you forget what we do here? Like, you've done this. Like, you're not just going to come off the street and run up and down. You're going to be dead.
Yeah.
And, but it's great. And that's one of the other things I kind of pride myself with my program, is that the legacy of my program is going to be the kids that came out of it. Yeah. And the fact that they want to come back and be a part of it and see the current guys, they want to talk to them, they want to instruct them, they want to give them pointers, and they just want to be around us. That speaks volumes to me. So, like I said, you're not going to win a title every year unless you're, Hendricken.
Yeah.
I found ways to gauge our program and our success that I think are a little bit more realistic. And it's one of my favorite things is when the kids come back, to see guys that played for me 3, 4, 5 years ago. And then around the holidays, there's always, group chats, Merry Christmas or whatever. And it's always like, the 2016 team, the 2013 team. And they come up on my phone. I'm like, oh crap, I still had that. And it's funny, after we beat Mount Pleasant in the playoffs, I went down to my locker room, to my office, and I grabbed my phone, and I had like 72 text messages. Yeah. And like 53 of them were between 4 of my 20 members of my 2016 team, just telling me how, we're going to come to practice. Yeah. We're going to give a speech. I'm like, no, you're not.
You can't do that. Yeah.
And then finally one was like, what are we going to talk about? Like, what are you talking about? So, but that's been great. It's been one of the best parts of for me, for my career, is just getting around these kids and getting to know them and become a part of their lives. And they become part of my life, and to spend that time and see them as they're going to college, graduating college, working, and then being able to have kids just reach out and say hello, or they want to come back and help out, or they want to volunteer. It's been phenomenal.
That's awesome. That's great. I think that's amazing. I think that's like the best part about being a coach, is like you have always make those connections. Absolutely. Yeah, that's amazing. I just have a few more questions and we'll wrap it up. What can you say about like this year's team, like dealing with the adversity of wearing the mask and, playing in a shortened season and everything that had happened this year?
Yeah. I think that's a testament to the leadership of Marquise and Stanley and Ned and Alexis coming in and wanting to be a part of the program and kind of letting it come to him, not forcing stuff. And the kids wanted to play, and they were, kids are resilient. They're going to make adjustments. And I see at school. So I'm a dean of students at Central High School, and we take temperature checks every day when the kids come in, and the kids just come in and they just stop and wait and push stuff. All right, take my temperature. Like it becomes second nature for them. It doesn't become a big thing, and I'm not sure it's a good or bad thing, but they're very resilient. They wanted to play. They wanted to have this experience. They believed that we could have a good season, and they were right. And we did things this year that we haven't done before. We have not. I played and coached in the state for close to 30 years. I never won at Hendricken until this year. So thank you, Ned Fitzpatrick, for that huge shot, because that gave me my first. I beat them at home. I beat them in the playoffs. I never won at Hendricken. So that to get that win there, that was like a huge monkey off my back.
Yeah. Mount
Pleasant, people say it's a rivalry with Mount Pleasant. Our record's not great against. We always have great games. We always have tight games. We lost the buzzer last year. We had a 4 overtime game a couple of years ago, and they're always tight games for the most part. But to get that win in a playoff game against them this year with going overtime and Marquise hitting the big shot, that was huge. So this group just they really came in just locked in like we're here. The season started. Let's go. And we dealt with some COVID stuff early. Marquise was quarantined to start the year. We had another player whose dad had tested positive, so he had to leave the team. One of the guys on my bench, one of my seniors. But they were just. I got to give them a lot of credit to deal with. The hybrid learning schedule, and whether you're in school or out of school, and we're doing late practices. And, we got to take separate buses. So now, you're in school, but you're going to go home and you're going to be back, because now we're going to take a bus down to South Kingstown, and we're not leaving until 5 o'clock. And they just handled everything with really with such poise and with such grace that it made it much more manageable. I don't know how every coach dealt with it. I don't know how every program dealt with it. But my kids did not miss a beat. They came in, it was business as usual. They were happy to be around each other. They're happy to be around myself and my coaching staff. And it was reciprocal. We were glad that we were there and we were able to get the season in, because going into it, we didn't know what it was going to look like.
Yeah.
We were hearing it's going to be 12 games, 10 games, 4 games. I had no idea. And I'm on the basketball committee. I used to be the president of the Coach Association. I've worked with the league. So I would kind of hear stuff and, talking to, whether it be being on different committees, you kind of get a kind of inside look. And it was so up in the air up to the last second that we just didn't know what it was going to look like. And then once we finally got the okay, it was like, okay, what's this going to be like now? How weird is this going to be? Not having fans, streaming every game, sitting on the opposite side of the gym. Like, I don't even stand on that side in practice. Like, I was never on that side of the gym. It's just so odd. But, my kids, we were able to play St. Andrews. We were able to play St. George's. We just took as much as we possibly could out of this, and the kids just embraced it and accepted it and got through it, and it worked out pretty well for us. Not our overall goal, but overall we were pretty good.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was a great season. Great to watch you guys. I was gonna say that I think that Mount Pleasant game of you two guys going, I felt like that was like game of the year, because that game was just back and forth. The playoff game was absolutely crazy.
Hansen he's tough.
Yeah.
Oh my god, like he's best friends with Stanley and Marquise. Like him and Stanley are like brothers. And he was just, I called a timeout, I think, at the end of, towards the end of the third. And I'm like, hey, the Hanse show's over. Like, what he's going to do. Like, you played against him your entire life.
Yeah.
He's going to go double cross and go middle. Like, keep in front of you. But I think he had 24 that night. He was unstoppable. Like, just an unbelievable player.
Yeah, that game was so much fun to watch. I wish, I think a lot of kids and everyone was saying, I wish there was a crowd there, because it would have been absolutely just.
Oh, it would have been. And especially with our two schools.
Yeah.
The crowds are just, all the city schools. We're playing Central, we're playing Hope, we're playing Mount. The crowds are just into it. Every play matters. It's not one of those games where you look in the crowd and no one's paying attention. They're on their phones.
Yeah.
This is a game that everyone's engaged and they're talking, and there's so much chatter going onto the court from the crowd and into the crowd from the court.
Yeah.
And, more than needs to be, but, I guess that's basketball in 2020. But it would have been to have fans in that game. I don't want to say the game was so great as it was, because there was a small gathering of people in that gym. I'm not gonna lie, there was some administrators there from Mountain, athletic directors, and and then you got the camera people and the mixtape people. And everyone had their own mixtape person there that night. So it was more of a crowd that was used, because I was concerned going into the finals, because I'm like, they couldn't, talking to the mask with just a small group of people in the gym made such a difference. They couldn't hear me. My kids couldn't hear me. I couldn't hear them. So now going to Rick, and I'm like, can we say, all right, maybe coaches don't wear masks unless you're in the huddle? Because I mean, being on a big venue, but the way they set it up, it was fine. Like Rick, I thought Rick did a phenomenal job the way they set up the entire venue. Because I had to go back to the scene of the crime the next day, because I did the radio for the girls' championship game. So it was fun to go back there 24 hours later.
Yeah, as you said, it's a little tough to go right back to that. Right. You did great on the radio. I heard you on the radio. I watched the girls' games. You did great, but it's gotta be not fun to show up.
No, I love doing the radio, but that was brutal.
Yeah.
That was tough to walk in that place the next day. So
I could imagine. Coach, last question. I asked all my guests this, and you seem so involved with basketball and everything, but what's like one thing or something that you really enjoy outside of basketball that you like to do?
Myself, I love going to the gym. I love working out. I love spending time with my wife and my dogs. I have 2 lab puppies that are out of their minds. But it's basketball takes up so much. It has in my life. Basketball has been such a major thing in my life growing up. When I was a kid, when I was in high school, when I was in college, after college, playing men's leagues, and I've met so many great relationships and great people through the sport. And it's given me so many opportunities to do different things. Do the radio, be on these different committees, do things like a podcast. Why would I be on a podcast part of this? Like, it's just no reason for me to be on it.
Yeah.
But it's been such a big thing, and it's played such a major role in my life. It's just given me a lot of opportunities. But outside of it, like I said, I'm a dean of students at Central. I've been working at Central for 21 years. That keeps me pretty busy. Like I said, just normal stuff, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Just trying to get through this weird time, and make sure we keep everybody safe, and we'll get through it and see what happens at the end of the school year.
Yeah, definitely. I hope everything, gets back to some normalcy a little bit as we progress with everything that's going on. But Coach, that's all the questions I have for you. This has been awesome. Great time speaking with you and getting to know you as well. Any questions, statements, or anything before we sign off?
No, I really appreciate what you guys have been doing with yourself and with the Ball and RI guys. And I think that it's great that you guys give these avenues to kids to express themselves and kind of introduce themselves to the world. The stuff that Ramon has done with Ball and RI has been phenomenal. The mixtapes and getting all these other guys that go out. I do want to give one shout out to a guy that came to a lot of our games this year. He's friends with my guys. It's the MG mixtapes guys, and he was phenomenal. The work that he did and the videos that he made of my guys this year were, I show them to everybody I can. Like guys at work, friends, people live out of state, former players, former coaches. Like the work that he actually does and how talented he is, it really is remarkable. That kid, he's tough. He's good. To take stuff that he has and put different music to different, music that you wouldn't think that our kids would listen to, and put it on, and they were unbelievable. I couldn't wait. When I saw him in the gym, I got excited because I'm like, oh, this is gonna be win or lose. Like, we're gonna get a mixtape out of this. This is gonna be good. So I'm kind of hoping he does one on me at some point. Why not?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm not dunking in any shots, but I'm pretty animated on the sideline.
Yeah. We'll give him a shout out. We'll let him know. Yeah, he's a great kid. He does a phenomenal job with everything.
Oh yeah.
Before
he's very. Just talent.
He's like
his vision for everything is insane. Yeah, but he did a great job, and I really appreciate all the footage and the coverage he gave my kids, because obviously, we're not having fans there, not even gets to see you, you know. And yeah, the games are streamed and all that, but how many kids are logging in and watching a full game, you know, on their phone or on their computer or on their iPad? It's you know, it's nice to have these little snippets because that keeps their attention too.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
watching it, you know, an hour and 10-minute game or watching it, you know, a minute and a half footage,
Yeah.
it's a big difference. So, but yeah, he just did a fantastic job with my guys this year.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, Coach, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate your time. This has been awesome. And once a guest, always guest. So anytime you want to come back on, you're always welcome back on.
Sounds great. Sounds great, man.
All right, Coach, have a good one.
All right, you too. Thank you, Jeff.